Wow, I didn't even lower the gavel yet. Must be full of students that know when the bell rings. Welcome. I'd like to reconvene the Monday, August 16th Dublin City Council meeting. John, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to
Well, last time we were together, we had the opportunity to celebrate our new council chamber, and this evening we have a whole lot more to celebrate. So we'll get to honoring some of these outstanding young people that have served our community so well. So first, I want to present a proclamation for our Dublin Jerome Esports team. So if you are a member of the Dublin Jerome Esports team, if you could please meet me right here. Okay, come on up here. I won't bite you very hard. Okay, stand here. We're going to face out this way. There's all these cameras all around, so everyone will be able to see you. Okay. So, welcome, gentlemen. It is a privilege to have you here. So I have a proclamation I'm going to read for you, and it states as follows. The Dublin Jerome High School esports team won the 2021 Ohio Esports League of Legends Championship in their first year competing. And whereas esports, also known as electronic sports, is a competition for video game players with more than 150 school districts in the state of Ohio performing esports teams as the games continue to grow in popularity. And whereas Esports Ohio is an education nonprofit esports organization and league created by teachers for students with a mission to empower students by providing educational institutions with the knowledge, direction, support, and resources to implement, maintain, educate, and compete in electronic sports. And whereas the entire Celtics team players are recognized as scholar esports athletes, way to go guys, and Esports Ohio for earning a grade point average of 3.9 and above. And whereas Jerome Esports team won the championship for League of Legends, which involves a multiplayer online battle arena, and whereas coached by Jason Sater, team members are Ethan Chung, Tyler Lynn, Balaj Rashhak Rishon. Is that close? One more time.
Radhakrishnan.
Antoinette Ruff, Andrew Shia, and Frank Lee. Now, therefore, I, Chris Ambrose Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, August 18th, 2021, as Dublin Jerome Esports Team Day in the City of Dublin, and extend our congratulations to the team and their coaches in honor of their recognition as esports champions in the state of Ohio, signed this 16th day of August, 2021. So, congratulations. That's a great accomplishment. And Coach, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Mayor and council members. We really appreciate this recognition. And I just want to say thanks to Dublin City Schools and Christy Vinny and Lindy Schweitzer for really getting this off the ground. This was a pilot program, and we never expected to go this far in our first year. And with this being a COVID year, our players, these gentlemen and lady, who they never ever met each other, were in the same room until we were recognized at the school board meeting. So it was really interesting to go this far during these conditions. Just want to say one last thing. A lot of high schools finding your family, and this was just another way for people to come together and support each other and work together for a goal. We had a great year, and we're just looking forward to another incredible season. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I have a proclamation to hand each of you, so get those out. Well, thank guys. We'll look forward to next year and doing this again. Okay, well, it wouldn't be Dublin if we didn't have to balance the power. So we had Jerome. So now we're going to have the Dublin Kaufman Esports team. So if the Dublin Kaufman Esports team could please come forward. Right, join me here if you would, please. Another fantastic looking group of young people. Well, welcome. We are so thrilled that you're here. I have a proclamation for you as well, and so I will read it, and it reads as follows. The Dublin Kaufman High School Esports team won the 2021 Ohio Esports Valorant Championship in their first year competing. And whereas electronic sports or esports are competitive electronic games of strategy that can be played individually or as a team, whereas Esports Ohio, the governing body for Ohio school esports in the state, organizes and coordinates matches between high schools to compete in 8 different video game titles. And whereas the Shamrocks won the championship for Valorant, a 5-person team tactical game involving technical skill and team communications. And whereas the Kaufman Esports team finished its regular season 8-0 and defeated last season's champs in the semifinals before winning the final Valorant game against the previously undefeated Jerome Celtics in overtime. And whereas coached by Jonathan Richardson, the team is comprised of Captain Vikram Cannon, Elijah Cranstown, Sam Baker, Ethan Park, and Jacob Cranstown. Now, therefore, I, Chris Ambrose, Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim Thursday, August 19th, 2021 as Dublin Kaufman Esports Team Day in the City of Dublin and extend our congratulations to the team and their coaches in honor of their recognition as esports champions in the state of Ohio, signed this 16th day of August, 2021. So congratulations, guys. Coach, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for council. I mean, we started this whole thing for the students, for the chance to them to show leadership. And so actually, I want to take that moment here, and I'm going to have our Captain Vikram actually say a few words, if he doesn't mind.
Hi, so my name is Vikram Cannon, and I was the varsity Valorant captain for Valorant in Kaufman. So I want to start out by thanking Mayor Grooms here, Coach Richardson, my teammates, families, and all those right there in front of me. I want to begin by going over how we managed to become the best high school Valorant team in Ohio and how it has impacted our lives so far. Sorry. Yeah.
It's a tough spot to stand in, I know.
Yeah. When our team started out in February after tryouts ended, we were 5 players, solo players, without any coordination or chemistry. That changed, however, when after school every day we practiced for a couple hours at a time. We would load into custom games and practice strategies, assess why certain things were working or weren't, and we would also scrimmage against other high school teams in the state. This would loop into a cycle eventually, and we found ourselves performing at a higher level compared to any other team in Ohio. Eventually, we started playing against university teams such as the University of Akron and Ohio Northern University, and we found major success when we found out we won one game against each of those colleges. Also, as I'm talking about our team's success playing against these higher caliber players, I feel it is important to discuss how each one of my players improved individually. So starting off with Eli here, Eli and Sam, these are 2 of my teammates who were forced to switch characters in the game many times, and it's a lot harder than it sounds. So their primary job was to basically defend all the objectives in the game around the play area, which is pretty much the hardest task in the game, and without their contributions, we wouldn't have made it this far. These 2 players, like I said, they switched roles over and over again, and not once did they complain about it. All they were looking for was the success of the team. They weren't looking for what they wanted to do. They wanted to look out for what the team needed. Another one of our star players was Ethan here at the end, who played a support character for the team as well. He tremendously improved as well. So basically, Ethan's role in the team was to make very aggressive plays to throw the enemies off guard, and this was very vital to our success, and without it, we wouldn't have made it past our first game even. Jacob was also a very valued member of the team because he always strived to better himself and the team through his extremely aggressive play style. This play style paid off because it led us to basically overwhelm the enemy's defense every single time without failure. The final player was me, and as a captain, I tried my hardest to better the team's skill in general and the management of matches, setting up scrimmages, stuff like that. And yeah, I found many times to scrim against the best high schools and colleges, and Jerome at the time was one of the best competitors for us. Definitely helped us get where we were. Also, again, I want to take a moment and thank all those here for giving us the opportunity to have this experience. And we also look forward to bringing home more trophies. Thank you for supporting us.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, next we are going to honor the Dublin Kaufman girls lacrosse team. So if you are a member of the girls lacrosse team, please come join me. We'll just line up across here. It's okay. Wonderful. Welcome, ladies. We have a proclamation for you this evening. We are so glad to be able to be together to honor all of you in person. And all of us, could not wait for these times to come once we heard of your victories. So like the Esports team, we're so excited that we can have you all this evening. We have a proclamation for you as well, and it reads as follows. The Dublin Kaufman High School girls lacrosse team won the 2021 Ohio High School Athletic Association Division I Girls Lacrosse State Championship on May 6th, 2021. And whereas the Kaufman Shamrocks defeated the New Albany Eagles by a score of 13-12, scoring their final goal on a buzzer beater by freshman Ava Westmeyer. All right, Ava. And whereas the championship is the first for a girls lacrosse team from Dublin and ended a 5-year winning streak by Upper Arlington, who the Shamrocks defeated in a regional game to reach their first ever Final Four. And whereas led by Coach Mike Murphy, their season began with only 4 players who had played in a varsity game and ended with the team boasting an 18-5 record, which is the most wins for a Kaufman girls lacrosse team. And whereas seniors Abby Elliott, Amanda Bailey, Mackenzie Bicking, Mary Proctor, Olivia Schaefer, and Amara Carlson stepped up and led by example with the motto, "Fight till the end." And whereas in the championship game, sophomore Kate Tyak scored 5 goals to tie a championship record. And whereas Amanda Bailey was named first team All-State, and the Shamrocks were named Central Ohio High School Team of the Year by This Week newspapers. And whereas other team members are Morgan Halley, Quinn Hammond, Bailey Morris, Lauren Suits, Micaiah Parks, Lily Holmes, Elliot Shinnock, Caitlin Gamble, Faye Mossman, Ava Allard, Kara Hendricks, Olivia Lance, Caroline Ebling, Megan Shora, Kara Kiki Jose, Audrey Bajak, and the assistant coaches Christine Irvine, Stephen McGuire, Mackenzie James, Kylie Kaiser, Emily Golliver, and Emily Gilletto. Thank you. Now, therefore, I, Chris Ambrose Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Ohio, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, August 20th, 2021, as Dublin Kaufman Girls Lacrosse Team Day in the City of Dublin, and extend our congratulations to the team and their coaches in honor of their recognition as the best high school girls lacrosse team program in the state of Ohio. Signed this 16th day of August 2021. So, Coach, do you have a few words you'd like to say?
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for having us here. We're very honored to be here. It's a great group of girls that I'm going to miss, especially our seniors as they go on to their next endeavors in life. And our other girls are going to continue the tradition and hopefully come back here next year with another one on that. Thank you very much.
Well, we'll get that date on the calendar to honor you back for another state championship next year. And I can attest to the missing the seniors. I moved my own senior in at Ohio State today, so you will be sorely missed. And be kind to your parents when they cry when they leave. So I have a proclamation to give each of you. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Okay, our fourth outstanding looking group of young people we get to honor tonight. Isn't it so wonderful that we have so many kids that are having success at the highest level in this community? It's really an overwhelming thing to be able to celebrate all of you this evening. So as you might have guessed, I have a proclamation for you as well, and it reads as follows. Whereas the Dublin Jerome High School boys lacrosse team won the 2021 Ohio High School Athletic Association Division I Boys Lacrosse State Championship, and Coach Andy Osmo was named Coach of the Year. And whereas the Jerome Celtics finished the season with a record of 22-2 after beating the Upper Arlington Golden Bears 12-11 to earn the school's fourth state championship. And whereas Carter Barco and Will Ackert were named to the U.S. Lacrosse All-American Team, Ian Dean was named to the U.S. Lacrosse All-Academic Team, and Will Ackert was named OCC Cardinal Division Player of the Year. And whereas 9 players received all Midwest honors, 8 players received all state honors, 11 players received all region honors for Region 1, and 13 players were honored by the OCC Cardinal Division. And whereas the Celtics were undefeated in regional and Ohio Capital Conference play and is the first Dublin Jerome team to win the state title competing at the Division I level. And whereas in addition to Coach Osmo, whose career coaching record is 68-19. The Celtics coaches include Connor Igor, Bart Sullivan, John Provenciano, hopefully that's close, and John Ewert, who was named Man of the Year for Region 1. And whereas the varsity team members are seniors Jackson Byrne, Jack Donahue, Ian Dean, Moses Harrison, Seth Martin, Carter Barco, KJ Robinette, and Will Ackert. Juniors, Brady White, Quinn McCrabb, Seth Iacano, Chase Zagurnis, Preston Everhart, Gibson Smith, Danny Prochko, Aaron Gilliand, Andrew Loxonen, Jack Kessler, Ethan Siddell, Simon Colby, Anthony Monty, Colin Colby, and Lance Aldzicki. Sophomores, Merrick Sigurnis, Preston Stuckey, Brady Sestilli, Luke McLaughlin, Carter Ungerot, and Derek Hole, and freshman Seth Siddell. Now, therefore, I, Chris Ambrose, Grooms, Mayor of the City of Dublin, Ohio, on behalf of Dublin City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, August 21st, 2021. We're going to have quite a week in this town, aren't we? As Dublin Jerome Boys Lacrosse Team Day in the City of Dublin, and extend our congratulations to the team and their coaches in honor of their recognition as the best high school boys lacrosse program in the state of Ohio, signed this 16th day of August, 2021. Coach, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate you guys all being here. I think the coolest thing about this whole event is just how Dublin's come together, and as we're starting a new school year, how we have Kaufman and Jerome, and although we're very competitive, we're all here to celebrate all of our accomplishments. And as our seniors, we have a few here. Some have already gone. A couple are going next couple days, and kind of leave a legacy for this next group of young men as well. So thank you guys. Let's keep it going. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Good job. Well, all of the fun has officially left the room. Goodness. That is certainly great to be able to celebrate all those young people. Okay. While our screen is coming down, I'd like to take a moment to invite anyone for public comment. If this is the opportunity for citizens to comment on any topic that is not on tonight's agenda. If there is anyone present that would like to speak to an item that is not on this evening's agenda, please raise your hand and we will call you forward. I also want to check in with Lindsay to see if we have any remote comment on items not on the agenda. None. Great. Thank you. Okay, we do have a consent agenda this evening that it consists of meeting minutes. Is there a request to remove anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Saludo?
Yes.
Okay, this brings us to second reading public hearing ordinances, Ordinance 33-21.
To authorize the establishment of the local fiscal recovery special revenue fund.
Thank you, and our staff report this evening will be by Mr. Matt Stifler. Welcome.
Good evening, members of council. There are no changes since the first reading of this ordinance.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment for public comment. Any online or present that would like to speak with regards to this legislation? Hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Thanks, Matt. Ordinance 34-21.
Authorizing the city manager to execute and accept necessary conveyance documents and contract to acquire a 0.040 acre temporary construction easement and a second 0.069 acre temporary construction easement from Mount Carmel Health System, an Ohio nonprofit corporation located at 6594 Liggett Road for the public purpose of improving the interchange, which shall be open to the public without charge.
Thank you. And Mr. Paul Hammersmith has our staff report this evening. Welcome. Very good, thank you. I'd like to take a moment and ask if there's any public comment regarding this legislation, either in person or online. Hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 35-21.
Authorizing the city manager to execute and accept necessary conveyance documents and contract to acquire a 0.412 acre fee simple warranty deed for limited access right-of-way and a 1.597 acre parcel from the property located at 6611 Liggett Road, Dublin, Ohio 43016, in its entirety from Dennis J. Hoffer for the public purpose of improving the interchange, which shall be open to the public without charge.
Very good, and we will stay with Mr. Hammersmith for the staff report.
Same comments of previous, there's no new information regarding this either. Staff does recommend approval.
Great, thank you. Want to take a moment for public comment, either present or online? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Brings us to ordinance 36-21.
Authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for and accept a 0.172 acre fee simple warranty deed for right-of-way 0.080 acre of which is present road occupied without limitation of existing access rights from McKittrick Properties, Inc., from the property located at 3865 Bright Road for the public purpose of constructing a new water line extension and other public improvements.
We'll be seeing a lot of you this evening, won't we, Mr. Hammersmith?
The only new information regarding this particular item was some follow-up information regarding the same.
Good, thank you. Want to take a moment to see if we have any public comment, either present or online? Hearing and seeing none. Council questions and discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes. Okay, ordinance 37-21.
Authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for and accept a 0.025 acre fee simple warranty deed for right-of-way without limitation of existing access rights from Stephen T. Newcomb from the property located at 3985 Bright Road for the public purpose of constructing a new water line extension and other public improvements.
And again, we have Mr. Hammersmith.
And once again, my comments are the same as on the previous item. Staff does recommend approval.
Very good, thank you. Want to take a moment for public comment, either anyone present or online? Hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Peterson? Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to waive the council rules of order to consider ordinances 38-21 and 41-21 together. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Reiner, Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes. Okay, ordinance 3821.
Authorizing the city manager to execute and accept necessary conveyance documents and contracts to acquire certain property located at 7304 Riverside Drive, identified as Franklin County parcel number 27300868200 from Bruce E. Temple and Kitty L. Temple, husband and wife, for the public purpose of constructing a new water line extension and shared use path, which shall be open to the public without charge. Ordinance 3921 regarding the property at 7322 Riverside Drive from John P. DiMatteo and Marlene G. DiMatteo, husband and wife. Ordinance 4021 regarding the property at 7402 Riverside Drive from Courtney L. Hagen and Joseph C. Hagen. And 4121 regarding the property at 7364 Riverside Drive regarding the property of Donald Tootle.
We will stay with Mr. Hammersmith yet again.
And quite simply, no new information on this particular, or these four ordinances. Again, staff recommends approval of these ordinances, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Very good. Want to take a moment to take any public comment, either anyone present or online? Hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 42-21.
Authorizing the provision of certain incentives to Andelin Biosciences, Inc. to induce to lease a facility to locate an office in the city and expand that office and its associated operations and workforce within the city, and authorizing the execution of an economic development agreement.
Well, welcome, Colleen Gilger.
Good evening. I'm still hoarse from a whole week ago. There are no new information in 4221, and unfortunately, the company had a change of plans, could not be here this evening, but we have invited them to come back at another meeting to address you, so we will make sure that that happens.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to meeting them. I want to take a moment for public comment, either anyone present or participating online. Hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Okay, introduction, first reading, public hearing ordinances. Ordinance 43-21.
Adopting the 2022-2026 five-year capital improvements program.
Thank you. We get to welcome Matt Stifler back.
Good evening, members of council. I'm pleased to put forward for you tonight the proposed 2022 through 2026 CIP in the form of Ordinance 43-21. As you know, we held a workshop to discuss the CIP on August 9th with an expectation that we'd have the first hearing today. There'll be another workshop next Monday and then a second hearing following on August 30th. If additional workshops or council hearings are necessary, those can be scheduled in September. Tonight, we're just going to go over the CIP at a high level as the details were discussed at the previous workshop and will be discussed at the subsequent workshop next week. In total, total resources for the 2022 through 2026 CIP totaled $277.6 million, with the largest source of revenue coming from income taxes. Also of note, other large categories included grants and developer contributions, TIF revenues, debt financing, and property tax revenues, reflecting a diversity of revenue sources that support our CIP. With regard to maintenance, there's $81.1 million programmed in this CIP. You can see that the primary focus is on transportation and more specifically maintaining our streets and parking lots. This level of maintenance reflects the requests of the departments and division and is the amount needed in their judgment according to our asset management program. We are programming new enhancements and infrastructure to a tune of $170.7 million. Again, the largest portion is in transportation, with streets and parking lots taking up a majority of those funds. In order to fund all the requested projects, they were prioritized and some projects reshuffled in order to meet the financial constraints that the city faces. In total, project funding in this CIP was $251.8 million. Details for the revenue projections and individual projects can be found in the CIP document accompanying this ordinance. And additionally, binders have been provided and distributed to City Council to aid you in your deliberations. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Matt. I do want to take a moment for public comment, either anyone present participating in person or online. Hearing and seeing none. Council questions and discussion. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the first reading. We will be discussing the CIP budget in our upcoming work session, and we will hear this back. Could possibly be at our next meeting or one further out, depending on our progress. But any comments? Yeah, Jane.
I just want to have one general question, and it can wait. The answer can wait until we get to the work session. Just out of curiosity, on the CIP maintenance on transportation, which is 65% of the budget, or of this particular piece of the pie, has that, I'm curious how much that has changed over the last, say, 5 years, as we've grown a little bit, and how much infrastructure and maintenance always cost municipalities quite a bit of money, obviously. And I'm just kind of curious as to whether or not that percentage has grown exponentially, or have we managed to keep it kind of, neutral? That's because of the fact that that is such an expensive cost. So just for
I'll be
maybe the
happy to
workshop.
include that in the follow-up memo to the workshop and provide a table that lists out the infrastructure spending in that subcategory over the last few CIPs.
Yeah, I'm just out of curiosity. Thanks, Matt.
Great. Any others? Okay. Hearing none. This is scheduled for second hearing on August the 30th, but as I said, that date could change pending our progress in working through the CIP. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to waive the council rules of order to consider ordinances 44-21 through 53-21 together. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jane. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Ms. Saludo? Yes. Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
We'll start with ordinance 44-21.
Authorizing the city manager to execute an easement with property owner Scott Carney along the Indian Run Meadows Planned Use Development Corridor for landscape maintenance. Ordinance 4521 is regarding the property owned by Tiffany Crosby. Ordinance 4621 is regarding the property owned by Charles and Carla Deering. Ordinance 4721 is regarding the property owned by David Francis. Ordinance 4821 regarding the property owned by Luan Nguyen. Ordinance 4921 regarding the property owned by Michael and Sherry Keelian. Ordinance 5021 regarding the property owned by Stephen and Amy Lytle. Ordinance 5121 regarding the property owned by Terry Noel Myers. Ordinance 5221 regarding the property owned by Thomas and Carrie Walters. And Ordinance 5321 regarding the property owned by Hayes Wilcox.
Thank you. And our staff report will be presented by Matt Ehrman this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, members of council. The 10 ordinances before you this evening are for the property maintenance easements along Avery Muirfield Drive in the Indian Run Meadows subdivision. You'll recall this is a project that council initiated to achieve the screening requirements that are listed in the development text of that subdivision. The corridor consists of about a 1 mile stretch starting just below Valley Stream Drive up to the Scottish Corners Elementary School. In total, once this project is complete, we will plan to plant approximately 186 new trees along this corridor. Of the 29 properties included along this stretch, these 10 properties make up about a third of the total that staff is seeking. As additional property easement paperwork is received, we'll certainly continue to bring these forward. And then upon adoption, staff hopes to begin planting as soon as this fall. We will be back with you on August 30th for the second reading and a recommendation for approval at that time. In the meantime, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I want to take a moment for public comment, either anyone present or participating via online this evening. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Yeah, Kathy.
Hi, Matt. Thanks very much for your continued work on this. Of the remaining properties, have you staff spoken to them and they're considering it, or where are we in its sort of a totality when this thing is completed? What is your estimate?
We have verbal agreements from all but 5 people. 4 are still deciding. Only one of them has refused at this point. It takes a while to get all of the necessary paperwork together and get signatures. We don't want to bring anything forward until we have that formal signature on the paperwork. So we'll continue to meet with them and work through it.
Fabulous. That's gonna look great. Thank you.
I just have I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
A quick question. I noticed on the map, it looks like there's some commercial properties. Are there a few commercial properties along there? How are you dealing with those that aren't residential properties?
They are in compliant based on what our planning division is expecting from those commercial properties. So we will continue to work with them as we need to, but they didn't necessarily want to participate.
Okay.
So Matt, thanks for doing this. I know it's been a long haul getting this done, and it's been tedious to get everybody signed up to go do this. But I think it's really important for the aesthetics of the community to keep that green corridor look throughout the community. And I hope in the future that we do some planning on other areas, whereas as the plants start diminishing in quality, that we start coming up with a budget to look forward to seeing where we're going to keep that it's greener in Dublin look green. So, and that really makes our community and gives us the edge over a lot of other communities. So thank you.
Yeah, I have one more quick question about that, because we brought this up about the corridor plan. And John, I guess I would ask you this question. I know in the past, there's been some policy about the corridors. Is that a written policy anywhere, something that we can refer to through planning and zoning, that sort of thing?
I don't believe so. I think it came in with every zoning that we did. We created that kind of green buffer, that look behind all the houses, so that the backyards and all the visual pollution of swing sets and decks and different colored gadgets in people's backyards sort of disappeared. But I don't think we ever really had a policy for that. But it's probably a policy that we might want to establish.
I think it would be helpful for planning and zoning, actually, because as residential properties come in and we look at these corridors, it would give us something to guide us.
Yeah, it is. It's a big part of our community. It's a real important reason when you talk to people why they move here. They just got to feel that this is a pretty green community and I think it's always been a planning and zoning goal. But, you know, as time moves on and these trees last 20 to 30 to 40 years and start dying out, we start seeing those backs of houses, and actually, and it also helps the people, I think, in a way, because it adds value to their property, because they're really not sitting on a street. They're looking from their patio into a green corridor and a buffer, so it adds a lot of value to their property at the same time of adding a lot of aesthetics to the overall feeling of our community. So it's something I think we should start looking into developing, and I want to thank Planning and Zoning for continuing this. This program goes back to 1980, so good program.
Matt, wouldn't the opacity requirements be part of the zoning text when that was originally zoned? There were opacity requirements for...
It didn't call for an opacity requirement. It did call for spacing of specific species, a certain number within a 300-foot stretch. You'll recall there were complexities of this, is where does that 300-foot stretch start and stop?
Right.
So there was a lot of, confusion as to who was actually the responsible party.
Yeah. It would be two things. I think there's two lessons to be learned there. Is one, the zoning code text needs to be more specific and speak perhaps in clearer language. This was one of the first higher density neighborhoods that really came into the city that was along a thoroughfare. And then secondly, probably the need for a policy of how we're going to enforce that zoning code text. So
in planning and zoning quite a few times, we struggle with just how much to require on the streetscape. I know I've frequently asked John about that, and I do think it would be beneficial to have a review of that.
Matt, will this also entail annual mulching and things like that, or is this only reestablishing the green belt?
It's the complete maintenance of the trees and shrubs in that easement. It does not include lawn care or fertilization types of practices. That's still the property owner's
Nor
responsibility.
mowing?
Or mowing, correct.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we will, first of all, I'd like to really thank the homeowners that were willing to enter into this agreement with us. I think it's a real win-win for both of us. Hopefully, as John spoke to, that it's a higher quality of living for the residents, that they would, have that green buffer to mitigate some noise and visual clutter and those things, and perhaps safety of children in their backyards. But it also is a great service to the balance of the community that we would reestablish the greenway that was once there. So these 9 folks I would really like to thank for partnering with us and in serving their community as well. So. With that, we will have second reading public hearing on August the 30th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Introduction, public hearing, vote, resolution 48-21.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with Rumpke of Ohio, Inc. for the collection, transportation, and delivery for disposal or processing of residential solid waste, recyclable materials, and yard waste, and acceptance and processing of recyclable materials.
Thank you, Christina. And our staff report will be Megan O'Callahan. Welcome.
Good evening, members of council. The city entered into our collection services agreement with Rumpke of Ohio in December of 2018. The contract is for a term of 3 years and sets to terminate at the end of 2021. The city also entered into a recycling services agreement with Rumpke, and the contract is for a term of 2 years and is also set to terminate at the end of the year. Since early 2021, Dublin staff have been working with SWACO staff and the community consortium members outlined in the memo to conduct a competitive bid process for both collection and recycling services to begin January 1st, 2022. Ultimately, the City of Dublin and Washington Township received one responsive bid for recycling services and collection services from Rumpke, and this was along with the other consortium communities. Gahanna and Reynoldsburg were the only communities to also receive a bid from local waste. The Rumpke bid results are outlined in detail in your memo, but in summary, with regard to recycling services, Rumpke submitted a responsive bid that again includes a revenue sharing proposal similar to the contract that we have currently. Rumpke's bid includes a proposed $35 per ton tipping fee for the receipt of recyclable materials for the initial 2-year term. The agreement would automatically renew for 3 additional 1-year terms unless Dublin provides notice of termination within 30 days of the renewal date. The revenue sharing proposal consists of a per ton rebate resulting in a maximum charge of $35 per ton or a rebate of up to $20 per ton. With regard to collection services, Rumpke submitted a 3-year bid for status quo services at a price of $22.61 per household per month through 2024 with 2 optional 1-year extensions with price increases in each year. For comparison, Rumpke is Dublin's current service provider at a price of $19.13 per household per month. So this bid is an increase of $3.48 per household per month. With approximately 14,200 residential units citywide, this would mean a projected overall increase of about $600,000 for 2022. Rumpke has been Dublin's solid waste service provider for a number of years and has consistently met the service standards per the contract. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, however, Rumpke's collection services began to fall short of the expected level of service, and staff actively participated in ongoing discussions with SWACO and the other consortium communities about the challenges that the waste hauling industry is experiencing with unprecedented trash volumes and labor shortages resulting in delays in the collection of refuse and recycling. With extra yard waste, spring cleaning, and many individuals working from home, we saw the volumes increase in curbside material, causing the trucks to fill up faster, which requires more trips to the disposal sites, and that ends up in longer service time for the drivers. Rumpke responded to these challenges by taking several steps to mitigate the delay in service by having crews work longer hours. So some of our residents saw their materials being collected later in the day, bringing in assistance from other Rumpke locations, so they were shifting their resources around in the region. They raised their wages, they accepted more applicants, they doubled their recruiting advertising, and they also enhanced sign-on and stay-on bonuses. So over the past couple of months, those actions have paid off, and we've seen marked improvement in their services. In terms of overall timeliness, we're seeing their services back on schedule, and as well as the quality of their services are back to being consistent with the terms of the contract. So staff recommends City Council approval of Resolution 48-21, authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with Rumpke for collection services and recycling. With us this evening, I have Jay Anderson, our Public Service Director, and Michael Darling, who oversees management of the contract with Rumpke. I also have, in the event there are any questions of Rumpke, we have Taylor Greeley. She is Rumpke's Central Ohio Municipal Representative. Wave your hand, Taylor. And then we also have Mary Long. She is SWACO's Program Administrator and helps coordinate the consortium communities as well as the bidding process. And Mary, I believe, is back in the back. So with that, should council have any questions, one of us will be able to answer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Megan. I'd like to take a moment for public comment, either anyone present this evening or online. So it looks like we do have one for public comment. Please come forward. And if you would, please state your name and address into the record.
Tom Holton, 5157, Remsen Place. I did not expect to speak on this topic, but I happen to work in the Boundary, and I happen to have an office that overlooks the street. Thank you. Well, thank you. I have an office situation that overlooks the street, and I have the pleasure of watching the Rumpke teams every Wednesday morning. And these guys, forgive me, I just have to use the phrase, they bust their asses doing their work. I just admire those guys. In every weather condition, they are out there. And what I think is one of their challenges is that we as residents put so much junk out there that we shouldn't put out there. That slows them down. And if there's something that we can do as city or as fellow residents, maybe homeowners associations, to help educate ourselves to say, don't put these things out because it slows them down. That's part of the challenge, I believe, that is impeding their service goals. We are causing part of their problems as residents and as consumers of their service. So I think that's we are causing part of our own problem. So I just wanted to put that out there as they're doing a great job for all that we put out there for them. So go Rumpke. Thank you.
When a former Marine recognizes a work ethic, that says something. So thank you, Mr. Holton. Any other public comment? Okay, council, questions, discussion?
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Tom, and I completely agree with what you said. And when there's a work shortage, it isn't the people that are showing up that get it easier. They just get it harder, and they make up for it, and they work harder. And they have to come around twice a week. Mondays, they come get the yard stuff. And even if the bags have been sitting in the rain for hours or days, they stop and they pick it all up and they put it in those containers. And a lot of times the person driving the truck is the one who gets out and gets it himself and hits the buttons and it goes into the thing. So I echo your comments, Tom, and I've seen that myself as well. And I think they deserve our appreciation.
Agreed. Megan, do you think that you could get for us what Dublin's current diversion rate is that we divert away from the landfill? Not for this is all good, just for another time, just for our own. You can put it maybe in one of the staff memos.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it would be wise for us to maybe put a little advertising on our website about what we can be doing. I agree with Tom, especially during COVID. We're all cleaning our basements and attics and things, and we have places that so much of our stuff can go and be reused again, but maybe we don't know where those places are. So if we could maybe talk about the Dublin Furniture Bank, the Welcome Warehouse, all these places, they accept this stuff, and so frequently we see it out on the curb. Or even if there's a way that you can advertise on Facebook Free Marketplace, just someplace to get it out. The other thing I would ask is, I'm very curious about our recycling and the rebate. I know that I'd be curious to hear, how effective are we at recycling? How much of this stuff actually gets reused, and how can we pat ourselves on the back or do a better job at it? Do we ever get the rebate? Because I don't know if recycling prices are high enough to get these kinds of rebates that we're talking about for the municipality. Have we had them in the past, or are recycling prices just too low?
The markets for the past few years have just been fluctuating greatly. So the recycling business at this time is very different from what it was in the past. Michael could probably speak to what the trend has been in terms of our recycling costs. Michael, would you mind coming up to the podium?
I got it. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Darling. I'm the Operations Administrator for the City of Dublin, Street and Utilities. And I believe the question was what the trends are for our recycling. Okay. So, and actually Rumpke could probably help with this as well, but the trends for recycling, several years ago, recycling was doing very well, and that's when this contract initially was put in place. And lately, due to lots of reasons, the recycling has been trending down, but recently it's picked up a little bit, and we have seen our recycling processing agreement costs go down per month. So.
I guess I'd start by commending Rumpke for the adjustments that they made. I've seen marked improvement in their service times and turnarounds. I'm curious why Rumpke was the only one that bid. Are other companies like Republic or Waste Management, are they stressed as well in trying to hedge the business, or what is it? Why is it that they were the only ones that bid on our contract?
Excuse me. That has been a challenge for a number of years, and each time we go out to bid, beforehand we survey the industry and ask if there's anything we could do with the specifications that would change their interest in bidding on the consortium communities. And then once we get bids and following the bidding process, we again go out and engage the potential hauling companies and see, try to find out why they didn't bid. We get a variety of different answers. As I mentioned, with this round, we did have 2 communities that received bids from local waste. It likely has to do with the size of the community. Over the years, we have modified the groupings within the consortium different ways to see if we could attract other bidder. We try different things every time we go out to bid, and with the goal of attracting additional bids. So we'll do the same thing after this. It's a continuing work in progress.
Thank you.
Kathy, yeah.
Thank you very much. And I too want to commend the work of the team. I think they do outstanding service. I had a question for the Rumpke team. The increase this year, that amount is an 18% increase over the current number. If I did my math right, that's roughly right. And I understand from the conversations that, we have more curbside service. I understand. What I didn't see is the thought about, will that level off? Is that going to come back down? Because I don't see that price increase, and then there's a 3% increase in future years, stuff that we've experienced in the past. So the 18%, I'm assuming, or that is my question, relates to this change in behavior that we're seeing and change in demand. Do we anticipate that changing over time? And if so, what that would do potentially to the cost of the price?
Could be a question for Taylor as well as, I don't know if Mary, you wanted to offer some comments as far as the trends in the industry goes.
Can I ask a clarifying question? The change in, what did you mean by the change in demand?
The conversation earlier, more people were home, putting more goods out, et cetera. Okay. The working at home thing changed your demand levels. That's what I was referring to. Understood. Or supply, whatever, your supply levels. Yeah, thanks.
Understood. First of all, thank you to everyone that shared your support. Our crews do work extremely hard, and I'll definitely make sure that gets back to them. To address your question, there was a significant price increase. Part of that is related to the, year over year, there is just going to be increases in service costs. Some of it is related to the increased volume. And then there are parts of that are related to the increased recruitment and retention efforts that we now need to put in and expect to continue to need to put in to retain an adequate employee base. We're offering things like a $7,500 sign-on bonus, $2,000 in attendance bonuses, and many other things that make essentially the cost of labor significantly higher than they have been in past years.
So you do not anticipate that as things, I'm going to use the word settle out or return to some degree of normal, that you're not anticipating that you're going to see a change in that?
I think something that we've learned over the past year and a half is that it's really difficult to anticipate anything during these times. What we're looking at is the 5-year contract. And during that time, given where we were and when we bid a price on things, we had to project to the best of our abilities what our cost increases would be and what they would be in those 2 additional years as well. So I honestly can't speculate what they'll be 6 years down the road. But, we do a lot of things to keep our costs low. Your team here, we really appreciate just the support of your staff here in getting the word out to residents about what they can do to reduce the volume of material that they put at the curb. So you're doing a lot of things right, and it is something that we can continue to work on to mitigate those costs.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
One thing I would add too is, when commodity services like this too, in my experience is when you're bidding in cycles, like you're bidding a 3-year contract, right? You're locking in a price unless you have an escalator. So when you go out to bid the next time, you're trying to play catch up. So there's fuel costs, capitalization costs, all those other things that come into play too. And you're trying to play catch up for 3 years if you haven't had the right escalators in there. So I think we'll probably hold truer to a cost when we put an escalator in there during a bid cycle for this kind of a service, for what that's worth.
So I appreciate that because I think that's an important clarifying point. So we're seeing all this challenge this year and there was no cost recovery for that in the current.
It's great to lock in a price for a few years, but then you're going to make it up next time you go out to bid. So.
I think that's clear because if folks are looking at this saying, gee, that's an incredible large increase over what we have seen historically, that is both a future projection and a catch up. So I think that's a helpful clarification. Thank you, Dana.
I also think it's worth noting that on this list, there are only a few communities that don't charge their residents for refuse pickup, and most communities do.
Good. Well, please do pass our appreciation on to your employees. I know that that there's been a share of frustrations and difficulties and hurdles to clear, and we appreciate the partnership and that we endure those together, and certainly look forward to a continued relationship and positive experience. So thank you so much. Okay. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Peterson? Yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Mayor Emerald Grooms?
Yes. Brings us to Resolution 49-21.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperative agreement between the City of Dublin, Concord Township, and the Delaware County Engineers Office for the Concord Road Resurfacing Project.
Thank you. Christina, would you like to introduce it?
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Okay, we get to bring Paul Hammersmith back. Welcome back.
Thank you. The last you'll see of me this evening. The Concord Township trustees, in association with the Delaware County Engineers Office, programmed the resurfacing of Concord Road as part of Delaware County's 2021 road improvement program. A portion of Concord Road, located north of Glick Road, is within the city of Dublin, a length of approximately 900 feet of the 6,300 total length of Concord Road. Dublin programmed Concord Road for resurfacing in 2022. The engineer's estimate for the work was $60,000. The Delaware County Engineers Office bid the project and the awarded bid was lower than the engineer's estimate with a total cost of $50,000. The Delaware County Engineers Office has approved the cooperative agreement. Additionally, the Concord Township trustees approved this cooperative agreement at their meeting last Wednesday evening. Staff recommends council approval of this resolution, and I will be glad to answer any questions council might have.
Great, thank you, Paul. I would like to take a moment for public comment. Anyone present or online? And hearing and seeing none. Council questions, discussion? Hearing none. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Peterson? Yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mayor Emerald Grooms?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
We certainly do appreciate the opportunity to coordinate with Concord Township and get the road resurfaced.
Absolutely. They've been great partners.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Thank
Please
you.
pass our thanks along to them. Okay, in other business, we have our Community Task Force Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Framework. Let's see, we have some members of our task force with us this evening. We have Kofi Opanza, and we have Bridget Marier, the chair and the vice chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Framework Task Force. So, Kofi, it looks like you have some things you'd like to share with us.
Yes.
Welcome, we're glad you're here.
Thank you. Greetings, everybody. My name is Kofi Mpansa. I'm the chair for the Community Task Force. Before I start today, I'd like to say thank you for having me here. Thank you to city staff. Your help was most definitely needed throughout this past year. The presentation I will be giving you today is the recommendations in which we gave and created throughout the year. Next slide, please. August 8th, 2020, the City of Dublin passed Resolution 4120. This created the Community Task Force. The Community Task Force was tasked with finding solutions for social injustice, racism, and bigotry, and to create long-term solutions to these problems. Next slide, please. Throughout the past year, we conducted 12 task force meetings and over 20 subcommittee meetings as well. Due to the pandemic and due to the state of emergency, all of our meetings were conducted online. With the help of city staff, all these meetings were able to run smoothly. Although these meetings were online, we were not able to get the desired in-person contact interaction with the community, which we would have wanted. But once again, with the help of city staff, everything was able to run smoothly. Next slide, please. Throughout this presentation, I'll be referencing 3 key words. First word being priority area. Our priority area is the overarching theme and main area in which we want to address. Aspirational goals, these are the goals within the areas, and then we have our indicators of success. This is what actions can we take and what outcomes would we like to see. Next slide, please. Priority area 1, general recommendations. We would like to see a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory board, a long-standing DEI board created, which will oversee any future DEI goals or plans from the city, and to also continue the work of the task force. We'd also like to pass an anti-discrimination ordinance as well. Next slide, please. Priority area 2, public engagement. We would like to see an improvement of communications and outreach, support leadership development, facilitate youth engagement, and also to ensure a reflective government and city practices. Priority area 3, city practices. We recommend the City of Dublin work on creating a diverse workforce, facilitate education and awareness, evaluate business practices, and monitor service delivery within Dublin. Priority area number 4, I would like to give a thanks to Chief Pice and everyone over at the Chiefs Advisory Committee for helping create this priority area. This priority area consists of promoting public safety, a sense of security, cultivating community engagement and public trust, ensuring transparency and accountability, and also diversifying Dublin's police personnel. Priority number 5 is economic empowerment within the City of Dublin. We recommend the city increase workforce diversity, reduce the racial wealth gap, increase diversity in Dublin entrepreneurship, and also support diversity amongst Dublin businesses. Priority area number 6 is housing. We would like the City of Dublin to conduct a housing study, create affordable housing, strengthen residential diversity, also celebrate residential diversity, and also to integrate DEI housing priorities. Priority area number 7 is mobility and transportation. We recommend the City of Dublin provide affordable transportation to its residents, expand the Dublin Connector, and also to facilitate DEI transportation programs. Priority area number 8, which is our last one, is community building and inclusion. We would like Dublin to improve Dublin's inclusivity overall, promote Dublin's diversity, and to also support our LGBTQ+ community. We hope the City of Dublin will accept our recommendations and also consider implementing our recommendations as well in the future. On behalf of all task force members, I would like to once again thank city staff for all the work you helped us with today, and also to thank council members for even creating the task force and having us here today. With that being said, I am more than happy to answer any comments, questions, or concerns you have for me today.
Well, thanks, Kofi. We certainly appreciate the work on that. I see you have several members of your task force in various forms here, so certainly want to recognize there's Vincent Wang. So thank you, Vincent, for being here. Judge Maynard, thank you for your participation and for being with us. Catherine, we certainly thank you for your help on the slide presentation. And also have Bridget Merrier. So thank you, Bridget, for being here and for all of your work on this. I would like to take a moment for, let's first go with any questions for just directed at Kofi and the task force. Anyone have any questions for Kofi? No? Okay. I want to take a moment for public comment. We did have one individual sign in, a Bobby Weston. So if you would like to come forward and state your name and address into the record.
I'm back. Y'all couldn't get rid of me that easy. So, my name is Robert Weston, and I reside at 3247 Rossbury Court here in Dublin at 43017. So, on behalf of Rainbow Dublin and myself, I want to thank the Community Task Force for their recommendations and commitment to building community and inclusion here in our wonderful city of Dublin. For someone who grew up in a small little rural town, I never thought I'd see the day where I didn't have to worry about being hate crimed walking through the street, just walking with my husband. And thank you. I'm both excited and absolutely elated that it is recognized that the LGBTQIA community is imperative to the future of Dublin City, and the recommendation of a non-discrimination ordinance gives me such happiness. Employment support, mental health assistance, anti-bullying, and gender transition policies for Dublin employees and hopefully eventually Dublin residents are all amazing goals. And to City Council, I hope that next year, Dublin City would be willing to work together and partner with Rainbow Dublin in our efforts to promote community diversity throughout our beautiful city. But before my time is up, I actually want to quote one of your employees, Officer Amber McCloskey. We cannot champion for ourselves and not champion for everyone else. Please do not forget that the rest of my community who may not be able to speak here this evening, I want to make sure that their voices are heard at this table as well. Please remember that there are those who are differentially abled, those who wear their hair as a connection to their family and their culture, and those who wear the hijab out of reverence to their God. My community is a vast and large community. But like Amber said, we cannot champion for ourselves without champion for everyone else. Diversity means all of us, not just some of us. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Well, members of council, I just want to take the opportunity to say thanks to the Community Task Force. I want to thank Kofi and Bridget for their leadership in leading this task force. They've done just an incredible job. Thanks, Judge Maynard, for being here tonight and for what you're doing to chair the Chiefs Advisory Committee. We appreciate their work as well. I want to thank the staff for their work. It's been a year's worth of work, and you saw all the different meetings and the like that this Community Task Force and the Chiefs Advisory Committee likewise have been doing, and it felt so bad because it launched, in the middle of COVID, and here they couldn't meet together. Their final meeting and accepting their own recommendations among themselves to advance this framework was actually done in person, and to see everyone come together and do that was a very moving experience. So we were glad we were finally able to do that in person and get that done. So that was terrific. I think what we're asking here this evening is for council to accept the framework as proposed. It's not quite an adoption of recommendations yet. As council knows, we typically ask our task forces to go do some really hard work, which they've done, bring back those sort of recommendations and thought that they've had. I think the framework within which they did it was pretty good. We, in local government, we don't always invent new wheels. We borrow them wherever we can get them. So we borrowed one off of Beaverton, Oregon. But I will say it was a framework we borrowed. It was just strictly the organization. The quality of the product that's in it is all the work of these folks, and it's just incredible work. So that's the framework they're presenting. And again, the recommendation is to accept the framework. And as I've told the task force along the way, there'll be no adoption of the actual recommendations tonight. That requires further discussion and work. at which time, you all will take up, at the appropriate time or refer to a committee, or you need to take a little bit of time and think through how you want to advance those recommendations or portions thereof. So that's simply the ask tonight. And again, I just want to thank the Community Task Force for all the great work, and I think they wound up with a really great product and great recommendations that will make our community even better than it is.
Great. Thank you, General. Yeah, as Dana mentioned, there's still a whole lot of work to do in how, in getting across the finish line on this. And so we have a tremendous amount of work left to do. And I know that we've asked legal to start looking at some of the gaps in the state and federal laws, and so that we'll have a better understanding of, rather than having purely redundant legislation, we would have legislation that was significant and filled gaps that were present. So I know that legal, we will expect to see some reports from them and in the coming months likely, and we'll, on part of our DEI inclusion, we'll continue the conversation on how this will be vetted out and brought back to council for adoption of specific actions. So any other comments from council? Yeah, Andy.
So my acceptance of the framework isn't thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you for spending so much of your time, and your effort is clear, very thoughtful, very well thought out, very easy to follow. So I'm looking forward to furthering the discussion and implementing some of these things. Thank you.
I'd also like to express my appreciation and thanks for a tremendous amount of work. A few things about this framework that I think makes this document so particularly helpful and I think powerful is I sincerely appreciate the time and energy the group took to make definitions of what we think about and what we mean when we say diversity and inclusion. And I found that to be incredibly powerful, and I thank you for that, because I'm sure you guys spent a lot of time talking about this. What are we talking about here? And I thought that was really well done. I sincerely appreciate your emphasis on data and benchmarks and measurements, because that's how we have to think about progress here. So when I had a chance to read it and reread it, just the depth of how you did it and the approach that you did it, as my colleagues have said, there's a lot to do. I did a rough count, and I think there's 130 some odd points of action, which speaks to not only the importance of it, but the, I'll use the word inclusion of it, of what it's going to take across so many dimensions. And that was a tremendous amount. But how you've laid out the report for us as a body to consider, I thought was an incredible contribution to the community, and I know a tremendous amount of work. So thank you for that. And as my colleagues have said, you've given us much to work towards and on. So thank you.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to accept the Community Task Force framework. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Jenny, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Aludo? Yes. Ms. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Keeler?
Yes.
Vice Mayor DeRosa?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Ambrose Grooms?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Great. Well, thank you all so much. Oh, yes, sir. Please come forward. Sorry, Judge.
And members of City Council. William Maynard, I live at 7903 Wiltshire Court in Dublin. And I just wanted to take a minute to thank you all for not only putting together or breathing into creation the task force, but also the Chiefs Advisory Committee. And I wouldn't feel good coming tonight and not thanking the chief and his command staff for their support to the Chiefs Advisory Committee. The issues on diversity, equity, and inclusion are not easy, and we had a lot of very candid conversations in the Chiefs Advisory Committee on those issues one of the recommendations, and I thank the task force for accepting the recommendations that were made by the Chiefs Advisory Committee. But one of them was that the Chiefs Advisory Committee become an ongoing committee. And we developed a kinship, I guess. We now call ourselves community partners. The relationship not only between the different members of the community Chiefs Advisory Committee, but also the police department itself. And so I think that we've laid a groundwork that we can build upon, and I just hope that that becomes one of the things that comes out of the final decision made by council. So thank you for those few minutes, and thank you, Chief.
Well, thank you, Judge. I was with, I think, most of you on your first meeting, and we talked about having difficult conversations and having them with respect and dignity, and the excellence at which you all pulled that off. This country has a lot to learn from the way that we have handled difficult conversations, the way you have handled difficult conversations in this community. And I think that is definitely a part of a work session for us in the near future of casting the vision of what is this going to look like in the future. And I think that all 7 of us would say that we see tremendous value in having this feedback and having these opinions. And also fostering this really important conversation. And I think that we become better when we learn to do hard things well. And you all are learning to do hard things well on our behalf, and we couldn't be more grateful. So thank you, Judge, for your work, and for everyone on the Chiefs Advisory Commission and the Community Task Force. We certainly, it is of tremendous value to us. Okay, anyone else interested in public comment relative to that topic? No, sure. Okay, thanks so much. All right, the next item on our other business is the historical log cabin relocation, and we'll go back to our own Matt Ehrman for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. February 22nd meeting, perhaps, staff presented 2 locations. One was Ferris Wright Park, and the other was at Thaddeus Kosciuszko Park. It was at the time council's preference of Thaddeus Kosciuszko. I do recall conversations we had about the site limitations that this park presented, one of which was no restroom facilities, and one was no turnaround radius large enough for buses to enter the parking lot. So with this modified site plan up here on the screen, you'll see a new restroom proposed as an option. We have increased the size of the radius of the cul-de-sac, removed some of the parking and replaced it with new parking off to the east, and then a bus pull-off area where we can house 2 buses or park 2 buses for a time being. So these kinds of modifications would be fairly simple and very low impact to the park if council wanted to proceed with that option. In the discussion as well, there were a list of preferred criteria that I gathered from that conversation that we wanted to consider for the actual location, one of which is on the east side of the Scioto River, close proximity to the river, versatile programming space, access to restroom facilities, and certainly ample parking and/or bus shuttle access. So council challenged us to go back to explore 3 more options. Those 3 options were Scioto Park, Riverside Crossing Park, and the Dublin Arts Council. So staff has taken the time to look at these as options. This is fairly not real clear, but this is Scioto Park. We look at Scioto Park as an option, but we found very large challenges with as difficult challenges. As you know, the east side of the park is down by the river, or I'm sorry, the west side of the park is down by the river, which is subject to flooding on a fairly frequent basis, so it would put the cabin in danger there. And on the western component of the park, we do have some topography issues and space issues. We have the Sunday at Scioto Concert Amphitheater here. We have the Leather Lips Monument, and then the very popular sledding hill that creates almost an overwhelming number of amenities in this park that create a traffic problem on certain occasions. And, you know, as popular as this park is, staff just didn't feel like this was going to be a viable option for us to consider. The second area was in Riverside Crossing Park. We looked at the location that would best address the restroom proximity issue. And, you know, placing this cabin into that lawn space area as depicted on this graphic, it too creates another challenge in that lawn space was intended to be an open space area for events, programs, activities, and the like. So it would encroach on that open area for general recreational use. The rendering that we were able to produce from this doesn't really give you a good idea what this might look like. It's still a construction site, but what we wanted to show is the contrast between the urban environment in the background with the old look and rustic look of that log cabin on that site and what that might look like. And then the third location is the Dublin Arts Council. This location is on the southern portion of the property, south of the parking lot and of the actual main building structure itself. This site does allow for bus turnaround activities here with a 3-point turn in and out. It does have restroom facilities, and the site down here in the lower southern quadrant of this parcel offers an immense area for programming. It's a very large tree and shaded area, and certainly we could probably achieve some river views by taking out honeysuckle along the edge here that is invading that space. So as a rendering of what that site might look like, this is a cabin facing towards the west as it was originally found, with a path system that would be adjoining the parking lot to the cabin and then ultimately to the back area of the Dublin Arts Council building. This site does provide access from an ADA standard, so we could create path systems that would accommodate. So with that, I am going to turn it over to you all for discussion. I will say Tom Holton and David Guion are here. Tom from the Dublin Historical Society and David Guion from the Dublin Arts Council. They have also reviewed all of these items, and we've had long discussions about the types of programming and activities and partnerships that could be housed at the Dublin Arts Council site. So in your packet was a recommendation from them for this site to be considered, along with an array of programming that was suggested. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Matt. I want to take a moment for public comment. Is there anyone present this evening from the general public that would like to make comment, either in person or via the web? Okay, hearing, seeing none. Council, questions, discussion?
I'd just like to ask David if he would come up and talk a little bit about there was some mention here about the possibilities of some revenue grants or that sort of thing that this cabin might be able to bring towards the Arts Council, and I was just kind of curious if you could expand on that a little bit.
Chair? Yeah, sure. Well, there's National Endowment for the Arts funding, National Endowment for the Humanities, and then the Ohio History Connection also has grant opportunities. So that was just sort of our first look at what might be available. And I know that Matt has funding available for the cabin and money in the CIP. So I think that monies are available. It's just to sustain it, we'll have to talk that through, and we're working with a strategic planner right now. So that's going to be part of the discussion.
You had mentioned about the opportunity for storytelling, being able to utilize this historic aspect to enhance the work of the Arts Council. That's a synergy that is going to be good for you, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Storytelling and poetry in the written word is always something that we want to promote and hold up. So this will be a way to do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Others? David, I guess I would be interested in understanding your master plan process, because I know at some point in time there was conversation relative to maker spaces and being able to utilize the Arts Council for maybe some different functions. And certainly this location is very near to existing residents. it doesn't appear like it's terribly far off of that property line, and I don't know how much honeysuckle we could cut down that we wouldn't be looking into that other residence versus looking at the river. I think there's very few spots left in this community that maker spaces would be really fantastic, and this general vicinity is certainly one of them. So does that give you pause at all of using this space for historical purposes, and maybe would have some impact on what you might be able to do in the future?
Well, I think it has great opportunity for expansion. Certainly, if additional properties were acquired by the city, we could move far beyond just the cabin. So we've had discussions about that sort of off and on for years now. So I think this might provide an opportunity to further expand that planning process.
Yeah, my only hesitation on this is its proximity to existing residents. I think it's something, to me, it isn't a deal breaker, but it's certainly something for us to contemplate because when you have a lot of school children and things in that area, you're probably looking at trespass issues and things like that. Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Yeah. I really think it is an ideal site, and with the rendering, certainly a point or a spot that the cabin could be, but I think that depending on where you orient the cabin on the Arts Council property, if we were to remove the honeysuckle or other barriers between the Arts Council property and the river, there could be a line of sight to the river without the residents interfering. That being said, you could leave some sort of natural screening up anyway and still have walking paths to the river and still get that experience. But the property's pretty cool. There's a water tank up in a tree, an old rusted water tank that appears to have been from the 1800s. Tom could probably tell us maybe there's whiskey in that thing, who knows, but it's a great location, location. All the programming is just icing on the cake to me.
Matt, the Scioto Park conversation, I mean, to me, when I was thinking about it, that feels like just the perfect place for this because it is so trafficked, because it is so used, because it is so popular. So when you said that there's just no place on that particular property where that would, could you help me understand that a little bit more? The staff's concerns about putting it on this location?
Well, if we're talking about programming this cabin with camps and tours and things of that nature, it would likely be something that would, one, be during the week and then also on the weekends. If you're trying to do a year-round type of thing, in the wintertime when that sledding hill is open, that park is almost inaccessible, at times. With the number of amenities on there and then the limitations with the floodplain, it was just that list of criteria that gave us that opinion.
Yeah, because when I think about use, if the sledding hill's in use, the kids aren't coming it's a snow day, right? So we're not having overlap. And I don't know, I just continue to think, it just feels to me ideally that this would be a good location for it. I mean, all the programming, et cetera, just because of the popularity of this particular park and the excitement of that cabin. So I was just trying to understand why this wasn't up there as one of the main contenders. And you just don't think there's any place you could physically do this
I just think from a space limitation standpoint, the terrain and then the popularity of the park being, it restricts a lot of the parking opportunities.
Any other comments?
I'll just make one more. I mean, I saw where this cabin originally was on the riverfront, and I think that there's such a large lawn space there that I'm hoping that we create a synergy between the Arts Council and a usable educational space. And with staff on site all the time, it makes for that kind of possibility to happen. Besides the fact that I know we're talking about bringing a shared use path up on that side, this connection to the historic district and the Bridge Park area will kind of bring people a little farther north for a reason to be there. And, you know, I did walk that site, and it's a beautiful open area, and this cabin is only going to take up a very small part of it. So I do think that eventually, as you master plan out, the possibility of being able to enlarge this into sort of an educational campus makes a lot of sense. And it does look like it naturally was there from the beginning, because it's not much different from where it was up the road. So, you know, I'm kind of hoping that this is where it ends up.
Matt, how many feet off of this driveway would this cabin be? It appears that it's about the size of the cabin off of the neighbor's driveway.
There's actually a row of evergreen trees on the edge of that property. It's probably 50 feet off of their driveway. But, you know, the exact location of the cabin, we were just trying to situate it in such a way that we could get a better view from the river without the house on the downside of that being in the view shed. But the actual location of that cabin could be almost anywhere in this general area.
Okay. All right, well, is there a motion on the floor?
I move for approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, we need to have a location for, in the motion.
Arts Council or?
The site.
I second that we put the cabin at the Arts Council.
Was that the
property.
motion?
That's true, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Jenny, would you call the roll?
Mayor Ambrose Grooms,
Yes.
Mr. Keeler,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson, Ms. Aludo, Vice Mayor DeRosa,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Ms. Fox.
Yes.
Okay, staff comments?
Only one comment this evening. I just want to thank staff and everyone for the great, and all the volunteers and everyone on the Dublin Irish Day sponsored by the Dublin Irish Festival, so don't mess that up and get in trouble. That was a great turnout, you know, given some of the challenge. I think it was a very safe event. I think it was pretty, I don't know how I want to put it other than to say pretty cunning the way it was laid out in order to create such a safe environment and kind of spread things out a little bit and still give the public some fun. So just want to thank everyone for the effort in that, and all the patience on getting things up and running before and after storms and everything else. So never a dull moment when you're putting on a festival. So, but it turned out pretty well, I think. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Dana. Okay, committee reports. Admin committee, Kathy?
Yes.
Welcome home.
Thank you very much. We will have interviews, just a reminder to council, for ARB openings this Thursday. So, and then we will meet as a group next week. Thanks.
Great. Community Development Committee, John?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Christina?
Nothing.
Public Services, Jane?
Our next meeting is August 23rd, 4 p.m.
Okay, we'll start with roundtable. I'll start down on my left with Andy. Roundtable? We don't have to do round screen tonight. I know I threw you off because it's been round screen for almost your entire tenure on city council.
Again, I would just like to thank all the folks that selflessly dedicated so much time to putting this framework together. As I said, very well thought out, easy to follow, practical, logical. So I'm looking forward to sinking my teeth into it.
Thanks, Jane.
I reiterate that, but most importantly, I think what I learned tonight also, and Dana spoke to this, is that when people get back together and they have an opportunity to develop relationships, the relationships are what move us forward to be a better society. And I know it must have been extremely difficult to do this over Zoom, and you don't have the opportunity to actually feel a person's emotions or hear their breathing when they say something that really moves them. And I hope that as this task force, especially the police one, continues, and possibly even this one, that we have the opportunity as a council to hear the voices, to build the relationships, that we do this together as a community, that it isn't just something that you'll give us on a piece of paper with recommendations, that we'll actually hear your voices, that we will build our community to be inclusive for everybody. And I just thank you for that. And I'm glad that you had the opportunity to get together and actually do this person to person.
Thanks. Greg?
Just to wish Dr. Marchhausen and the school system good luck. They're opening their doors on Wednesday, so we wish them the very best. We have a new principal at Kaufman this year, first year in a very, very long time. Matt Perrell is going to be the principal over there, so good luck to him. And everybody just keep your eyes open as the kids run across the street to get on the bus and everything else. We've been unaccustomed to that for a year and a half now, seeing little kids running up and down the street. So everybody keep your eyes open, and we wish them the best.
Christine?
Thank you. Ditto, ditto, and ditto. Done.
John?
Ditto on Jane's comments on a task force unity to sharing a common goal. As a team builder, I just think it was really great. I want to say something about the Irish Days. Listening to the bands, they were so excited about the fact that they could actually play in front of real humans. And it was interesting how they acknowledged that Dublin had the courage to really get out and try to do something and sort of break the cycle of depression that we've had being locked up. And same way with the vendors. They were just thrilled to get out and try to sell some items that they've had in their basements now for a year or 2 years and have an opportunity to intermingle with other people from the community and show their wares. So again, congratulations to the team from Dublin and who put the Irish Days together. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Kathy?
Thank you again. I will reiterate my thanks to the task force. Tremendous work. And congratulations, I guess, the Eversole Middle School groundbreaking is tomorrow morning, so I look forward to attending that.
Ribbon cutting.
Ribbon cutting,
yeah,
not brown grape.
yes.
What am I saying? I said that wrong.
All those
for
parents
heaven's
thought,
sake,
wait,
that'll
my
scare
kid
them
was
to
going to
death.
go there tomorrow.
Thank you, that's right, the ribbon cutting and the convocation, so I look forward to that tomorrow. And last Friday, Andy and I and Dana and team had the good fortune to host the US 33 Corridor group here in this wonderful facility. And just wanted to share that there will be a launch of that group here later, of the new branding and the new approach of that later in the month. And we look forward to that continued partnership and the exciting things that that will bring to us. So looking forward to that as well. So, and good luck to the kiddos.
Super, thanks. Yes, exciting day, school starting. It's going to be a long-awaited time for many of us, right? Looking forward to it. I wanted to thank staff for certainly all of the work that was done on Irish Days. I went over to the Kaufman Park events on Friday evening, and it was fairly well attended, and everyone that I saw looked thrilled to be there and thrilled to be listening to music and to be with one another and to have fellowship. So, and then on Saturday, I went over to the one at Bridge Park there with the stage that was set up at Longshore and Riverside, and that was very well attended. I look forward to hearing any police reports that we might have over there. I did have a little bit of feedback from some of the businesses there that some events that had happened on Friday night. So we'll look forward to hot washing that, as Dana would say, and see where we might be able to help those folks in a little bit better fashion with events, not necessarily Irish Days moving forward. But I also wanted to bring forward to staff, as I was there Friday night and Saturday and saw the trash cans that were overfilling with cups and things. And I really would challenge us to try to approach a zero waste for our events. And I realize that that's not someplace that we will get tomorrow. But if Ohio State can host an event in the shoe on a Saturday with a zero landfill goal, I think we probably could set the goal for our Irish Festival that would be a zero waste event. And I would really like us to start examining what it would take to move into that space. I'm sure that some of that work has started, but really challenge ourselves that, how long is it going to take us to get there? With, the products that the vendors use and things of that nature. So I would just ask that we start looking at that and maybe get some feedback from staff of what that might take to accomplish. I was just kind of overwhelmed by the amount of goods that were being discarded there. And I thought, I think we can do better than this. So that's my only comment for Roundtable, and certainly do appreciate all of you being here with us this evening. And again, it is very good to be with one another. So have a wonderful evening, and we will stand adjourned.